Hi, I'm Daniel, and I'm finally onto ranking the Disney Revival era, which was where the studio revamped and felt fresh again with a great streak of movies. During this period, they were the top studio, and I would argue it's better than the Renaissance. I'm probably biased because I grew up with all these movies and I watched them a lot, so these movies are very familiar to me. However, does it really matter? There's no way to my opinions on any of these movies will be different in another situation, unless you have all bias in favour of the previous two eras as well. What matters is I justify all these takes and the order of this list. This era has improved world building to feel this grand story more than ever. The main characters feel more complex and interesting, especially all the main duos. This era's movies also feel more thematically tied, especially as it went on. There are some feels like the move to only CG instead of the variety of the post-Renaissance had. And there is bit to work with dialogue, but there's still a great stretch of movies I love. Another thing to notice, I'm just doing Princess and the Frog to Moana. I think that's the best cut-off point. Some can say Rock exists in Frozen 2, but I'm not. If they were counted, they'll be in the bottom three. With all this said, what are the worst and best revival films? 8. Frozen. This is the film of the revival when my bias made more against it, because I used to dislike this movie a lot, but now it's okay. It's better than every other bottom film of Disney era, and I think every second worse. Still, I find this movie very conflicting. There's many great things that is going for this, and I see no potential Disney masterpiece hidden somewhere. However, it is equally flawed and shows some of the rival's problems more. I like some of the elements of subverting, especially the ending, but the young trying to make fun of Disney are cringe. This feels too marketable in places, like you're trying too hard to sell t-shirts. This movie upset him because the first act is great, it sets up an interesting world lore and a story between these two sisters. But the movie wastes so much time in the middle and the climax isn't as effective as it should be. The middle is mostly wandering about and padding in between certain scenes. This gets boring even if I like those characters. Olaf is very wholesome and genuinely funny, and Anna is a great protagonist with a strong arc. I think this movie wanted a joint protagonist thing, but Elsa isn't as good. She has an interesting story and good moments, but the movie can't decide if her youth is empowering or a bad thing. They need to show more of that. There's also many dumb decisions and parts which need theories just to make sense. I don't want to spoil a 10-year-old film, yet that sink in. But there's this monologue that feels so forced. The animation and half the songs are good, but some are quite mixed. I already made a video on Yet to Go that goes into some of my general critique more, but I feel I need to make another video to properly discuss Frozen. At least it's the opposite of a Beyond movie. 7. Tangled. Again, this movie is certainly good, but it's easily one of the weakest revival films for me. It feels the least like a revival film, aside from one which seemed quite obviously different, for being a very too simple story. This is a fun movie and has good moments, but it feels like one of those movies that don't excel at anything. The songs are decent, but one of the weaker Disney soundtracks. Rapunzel and Fiona Rider are decent, but this movie never feels like characters or revival movies, so they don't get as much as they should. This movie feels like it's trying to target an annoying audience, with points where it's trying to act like it's not a typical princess movie. The original teaser especially showed that. While the movie is yes bad with that, it's still there. This is out of ways, because in most ways it is a classic princess movie and a pretty good one at that. These problems are more prevalent in the first act. After that, there are fun scenes. The part in the Kingdom of Corona is a great montage. And the animal psychic characters are fun. This movie will be a lot higher in other eras, but I can't bring myself to call it great. The next 6 easy are. Honestly, they could have gone in a slightly different order. Tangled is one they have used to say about from this era. 6. Zootopia, or Zootropolis in the UK, but they already went over the title difference in the previous video. Anyway, this film is great, and while some parts of the racing allegory have been up to criticism recent, this movie is just a really good cop and mystery film. It's a bit hard to remember what it was like originally watching. This is great at going through many cues and leads in, where the story unravels as it goes along. It is also surprisingly dark in a great way and has a good atmosphere. The tension at certain moments are really felt. It feels like the type of genre Disney very does, aside from maybe Great Mouse Detective. This movie can be funny, I like most of the set pieces. I say most for that naturalist scene like question how it got thought of, written, voiced, animated or approved. I like both Nick and Julia yacht, which is what excites me for a sequel. This world is just very well designed and clever. As for the discrimination stuff, I like part of it. It's interesting that Zootopia is built up to be a perfect utopia where anyone can be anything and discrimination is over. While it's yes apparent, there's a clear divide in class and what roles people do and expected to play. It also gets the fear mongering very accurate. However, I would prefer if it didn't try so much compared to real world racism. The predator versus prey dichotomy doesn't work as a good allegory, and some parts really lack subtlety. The villain is also dumb and should have been established on more of that style before the last 10 minutes. Even with this, I think it's still some pound commentary and it's a great film. It's fun and a sign that Disney knew what they were doing around this time. The Bad Guys are Bad, but it's still a solid film. 5. Winnie the Pooh. This movie is really wholesome, same with this whole franchise. It is literally less than an hour, but it's fun and short, which I think really worked for this. I do have to admit it's worse than many adventures, because that tied to the message of growing up with that beautiful ending scene. This is probably the least emotional of the Disney Winnie the Pooh movies, but it's also the funniest. This movie is great joke after great joke with many funny exchanges and songs. That whole interaction in the pit is probably the best scene in the movie. Or maybe in any movie. This movie is charming and managed to give everyone, aside from Kangaroo, something to do. The plots are fun, catching the vaccine was enjoyable. It's weird no one cares about Pooh's starvation, but I can get over that. Eel's depressed always, as missing Tails good plot with a wholesome end. There's also a really strong fourth wall breaking part, but narrated from the book. There's also some really catchy songs like the back end is going to be great. As well as having So Young in the credits, that used to be my favourite Disney song. It's not anymore. I might make a video on what it is another time. This is just overall a great fun movie. It's a bit out of pace in its era, but it's a nice light-hearted end to the studio's 2 animated films. 4. Moana. Disney's best soundtrack is here. Every song is really good to amazing. It remained that way in the 500th listen. It's a weird case of both songs being in the start, but that's just a general Disney thing. Anyway, this movie's story also works. It's a bit just going by emotion at the start. That might just be how many times I watched this. It's still a good introduction, and once the journey starts, this is great. The set pieces make sense and are fun, especially Tom and Tower. This embraces what it is and keeps the annoying lines mild compared to Frozen and Tangled. The water is explored in a compelling way, and this is a hard emotional beat in the end. Moana and Maui are a great lead duo, and they both have very strong arcs. It doesn't matter as many focus on 2 characters because they are very well created characters. The animation looks beautiful, and a step above every other movie in this era in that department. This Walt looks very realistic and expressive. I just think Moana's all around an amazing movie. 2016 is just great with animated films in general, which is shown by Disney's double release Zootopia and Moana. 3. The Princess and the Frog. I probably should have counted this as post-Renaissance so we could get that top spot. This is a movie hard to find things wrong with, and I would call it the best Disney princess film. It started this era and successfully feels like taking Disney a fresh new direction, while still keeping all its strengths. The music is great and very well established locations, while having great songs too. The score is also very good and adds to the beautiful animation. The lighting and colour scheme has so much personality and shows a strong revamp to the animation. It also has great style changes and moments of brilliant animation. This is all good, but the rest of the movie is still amazing. Tiana is a great protagonist who has a compelling arc of believing she just has to work for success. This movie has interesting commentary on a position being poorer and non-white, trying to make more. The turning to frogs is sometimes criticised, but I think it works for character arcs and there's fun parts gained from it. It adds to the weird animation trend of non-white characters in animation turning into something like Animal or Soul, but I still think most movies that fall into this are good despite it. Prince Naveen also has a good arc, and the romance actually works for once. Dr. Vasily is a threatening mysterious villain, especially his ending. All year round, The Prince and the Frog was an amazing film that showed Disney still had it in them, and it's sadly only fair on this list. 2. Big Hero 6. I may have talked about this franchise a bit before, mainly the series, but this movie is a real masterpiece. In the past, I probably would give it a number 1 spot on both this era and the whole studio. I still think it's up there, and even with the previous video, I still think there's more to say about this movie, but I'll keep this segment brief. The world in its creation is done greatly with cool ideas of futuristic merger of San Fran Tokyo. This makes roguelikes interesting and feel like a whole culture. This is quite a fun superhero story with a likable group of characters, especially Fred. He improves me by acknowledging tropes and I just find them funny. Baymax is very wholesome, funny, and a representation of Doshi all you want. I don't like how he's the only part remembered from this movie, but he's still great. Also, Doping's introduction before Sad Moment is possibly the most powerful moment from the studio. All the superhero stuff is more of a hype for this movie's real story about Hero's grief. It has many strong moments of Hero's character, which becomes compelling when parallel to the villain. It may be the weakest part, but I defend this role as a thematic showcase of how revenge isn't healthy and getting in the way of what they would have wanted. Big Hero 6's great action is funny and very emotionally profound. While not quite the best Walt Disney movie, it's definitely my favourite. What could be number one over this? 1. Wreck-It Ralph. This movie is really something I don't exactly know what to say about it. The concept of arcade characters being alive is really inventive. It stays simple, so my first thought isn't to nitpick this world's logistics. It is just really interesting and inventive. How this world is created, shown, and animated in visuals that still hold up pretty well. The variety of design styles managed to go well together, and it has some very creative backgrounds. It manages to have many IP characters but doesn't feel like that. The franchise is just adds to the world feel, and instead we focus on the three games that are actually plot important. Sugar Rush is a funny location to spend most of the time in. These characters are very likable and enjoyable. Fix-It Felix is great, and starting out with Calhoun is surprisingly brilliant, but most of it will make you feel forced. Vanellope is the good kind of annoying, and King Candy is a fun thing with interesting backstory. This movie works in many ways, but what's very interesting with the video game setup is the focus on identity. Puts into question who they are and whether they are just a character in game. Mainly with Ralph's character arc of wanting respect and his similarity with Vanellope. The duo is great, and Ralph's moment of his speech that I'll never be good and that's not bad. This movie goes hard in every way. It's a solid setup and world building while being very emotionally powerful. It is also pretty funny and just the best survival film, and from all Walt Disney Animation Studios. In conclusion, that is it for era rankings. The current tier, which I think is called the Post Survival, only has 5 films and will become 6 with Wish in November. I also need time for those movies to not be as recent for it to work. I do have a full list of all movies, but I don't know where to release it. I may try to do a quick speed through of 62 films in around 10 minutes after Wish, but I don't know if I will. Anyway, this was a great group of films that were fun to rank, even if they are close and I do see where other orders are coming from. I don't know what to directly rank films of next, but I'll see. If you enjoyed this video, consider pressing subscribe and watching more. The end.